I was scrubbing blood off my hands when her text came through. Not real blood, just the kind that settles into your skin after hours of engine maintenance in a scorching hangar bay. The kind of blood that smells like steel and oil and sweat, earned under orders and discipline and loyalty. Loyalty. That word used to mean something to me. It did mean something to me, right up until I read that text. I'm taking half your military pension. Slightly smiling face. The smiley face wasn't just salt in the wound, it was a goddamn bullet. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen, chest tight, every inch of me humming with disbelief. Lisa had always been blunt, but this wasn't her being straight. This was her being smug, gleeful, like she had already won something I didn't even know we were fighting over. I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I leaned back against the locker wall, letting the cold metal cool the fire rising in my chest. 15 years. That's how long we'd been married. Lisa, with her honey-sweet lies and fake laugh charm. Lisa, who wore support like a costume when I deployed and stripped it off the moment I stepped through the door again. There were signs, I see them now. The sudden gym obsession, the password change on her phone, the girls' nights that started lasting till 3 a.m. But I didn't want to be the paranoid husband. I wanted to be the good one. The Rock. God, what a joke. It wasn't just the message. It was how she sent it. No warning. No conversation. Just a smug declaration of war via text message while I was still in uniform. Like it was a game. Like I hadn't spent nearly 2 decades earning every penny of that pension she was so eager to gut. But here's what she didn't know, because she never cared enough to ask. 3 years ago, I sat across from a military judge with ink still wet from my last deployment, drafting the most ironclad prenup you've ever seen. Not because I didn't trust her back then. I did. But because my CO had watched his ex-wife walk away with 70% of his benefits and told me, with haunted eyes and shaking hands, protect your future, brother. Love makes you blind, but paperwork sees everything. So I did. Page 12. That's the one that would break her lawyer. I hadn't looked at that document in years. Didn't think I'd need to. But I kept it safe, in a fireproof box beneath my bed, along with my medals and a picture of my son in his Little League uniform. All the things I swore I'd protect, no matter what came. I didn't reply to her text that day. I drove straight home instead, still in my fatigues, still filthy from the hangar. I didn't knock. I walked in and found her sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of wine and that slimy smirk on her face. She didn't flinch. Didn't even look surprised. "Did you get my message?" she asked, sipping from her glass like it was any normal Tuesday. I didn't speak. I just took out my phone and snapped a photo of me, still in uniform, covered in grease and truth, standing beside the framed signature of the judge who had written our prenup. The judge who, 3 months ago, had retired and given me a hug goodbye at a military gala. Then I texted her back. One picture. No words. Her face dropped before the message even delivered. She didn't know it yet, but she just kicked a hornet's nest wrapped in steel. And I had every intention of stinging back. She followed me to the driveway barefoot, wine glass still in hand, rage blooming across her face like wildfire. "You think that's gonna scare me?" she snapped, waving her phone like it was a sword. "A selfie with some crusty judge you probably bribed at a reunion barbecue? You think you're untouchable because you wore a uniform?" She was shaking now, not from fear, from ego, from realizing, maybe for the first time, that I wasn't the passive idiot she thought she married. I shut the car door calmly, eyes never leaving hers. I didn't yell, didn't curse. I just let the silence stretch long enough for her to hear her own breathing, long enough for her to feel the weight of what she'd just started. "You really think I haven't been planning this?" she hissed, stepping closer. "I've been counting the days, Brandon. Every single goddamn day of your smug, boring routine. You think coming home in boots and barking orders makes you a man?" There it was. I didn't flinch, didn't give her the pleasure. But inside, something twisted. Hard. Lisa used to greet me at the door like I was returning from war, even when it was just a week in Virginia for training. She used to beg me to text her goodnight, even if it was just 2 words. She used to cry when I left, every single time. Somewhere along the line, those tears dried up. Somewhere along the line, they turned into resentment, maybe even hatred. I just hadn't seen it. Or I didn't want to. But she hadn't planned for the prenup. That was the crack in her plan, and I could see her trying to patch it already, brain scrambling for a new angle. That's the thing about manipulators. They never stop moving until they're pinned. I've got texts, Brandon. I've got witnesses. Emotional abuse, neglect, whatever I need. You're not winning this, she spat, throwing the rest of her wine across the gravel like it was holy water and I was the devil. I'm not playing, I said, my voice low. Not anymore. That shut her up for 2 seconds. I walked inside, not stomping, just steady, controlled. The kind of walk you learn after years of being taught to never show fear, to never show anything. I passed the hallway photos, me in dress blues, her in a cocktail dress, our son grinning with ice cream all over his face. We used to be a family. Now it felt like a staged crime scene. Upstairs, I pulled the fireproof box out from under the bed. My hands didn't even shake. I opened it and found the prenup, sealed in its plastic sleeve like a relic. Page 12. In the event of marital dissolution, the undersigned waives all claims to military pension or benefits accrued prior to the date of final separation. Signed. Stamped. Witnessed. Iron. Lisa thought she had it all mapped out. Thought she could tear down 15 years of my life and walk away with half of everything, including the piece of me I gave to this country. Not this time. The next day, her lawyer called mine. I wasn't in the room, but I heard about it later. The man reportedly paused halfway through page 12, set the document down, and mumbled, "I think I need a moment." His assistant had to bring him water. The guy had filed over 300 divorce cases and had never seen language that tight. Apparently, he asked Lisa point blank why she hadn't told him about the prenup. She blamed me, said I tricked her, drugged her, anything but the truth. She signed it because she never imagined she'd be the one to betray me. But we weren't done. Because the prenup? That was just the trapdoor. What she didn't know yet was that she'd already stepped on the trigger. She moved out 2 days later, but not before flipping every light switch, slamming every door, and making damn sure I knew she wasn't leaving quietly. "This house was never yours," she hissed as she dragged her suitcase down the steps, heels clacking like gunshots against the hardwood. "You just parked your sorry ass here while I kept everything together." I didn't stop her. I didn't speak. I just watched. She paused by the front door, looking around like she was trying to memorize it all. Every picture frame, every carpet fiber, every trace of a life we once pretended to build together. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a single key, and tossed it at my feet with theatrical disdain. "Enjoy your shrine, soldier," she sneered. "You'll be the only one praying in it." Then she was gone, just like that. And the silence that followed? It was suffocating, but not because I missed her. No, because the quiet gave space for the real questions to surface. How long had this been going on? Who else knew? And what the hell kind of woman smiles while gutting a man? That night, I didn't sleep. I walked through the house with a trash bag, collecting things she left behind. Half-used makeup, cheap perfume bottles, and a phone charger that was definitely not mine. Then, while dumping her stuff into the bin, I noticed something wedged under the TV stand. A receipt. It wasn't mine. Luxury hotel. 2 nights. Presidential suite. $817.06. Paid in cash. I sat down on the couch, staring at that paper like it was a dead animal. Dated just 4 weeks ago. I was on base that entire weekend. We'd FaceTimed once, brief, glitchy, her wrapped in a towel, saying she had just gotten out of the shower. My fingers curled so tight around the receipt they left creases in the ink. So I started digging. Bank records. Email drafts. Her tablet. And that's when I found the hidden photo album in the cloud. She thought she was clever, naming it Taxes 2022. But inside were 57 photos. None of them had anything to do with taxes. Or 2022. They were all recent. Her. Him. The same guy from her old gym. Alex something. I remembered the name because she used to talk about how funny he was during spin class. She said it like a joke. Like I was the paranoid one for raising an eyebrow. There they were. On a yacht. In a hotel robe. At a rooftop bar I'd never been invited to. One photo showed her wearing a necklace I'd given her for our 10th anniversary, smiling as that son of a bitch kissed her shoulder like he owned her. I saw red. But I didn't throw anything. Didn't scream. I just sat there, laptop open, heart pounding slow and steady like a war drum. That night, I printed every single photo, every receipt, every suspicious withdrawal. I built a file so thick it needed its own damn folder. Then I made 2 copies, one for my lawyer and one for the storm that was coming. Because Lisa thought the prenup was the whole trap. She had no idea that this, the betrayal, the evidence, the patterns, this was the real payload. And I wasn't just going to survive her war. I was going to win it. The morning I handed my lawyer the folder, he didn't say a word for a full 5 minutes. He just flipped through it, page after page of lies, luxury, and lust, his brow tightening with each turn like a knot being pulled tighter and tighter around Lisa's neck. When he finally looked up, his voice was dry. "You didn't just bring a smoking gun, Brandon. You brought the whole damn armory." I didn't smile. Not even a little. This wasn't satisfaction. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was groundwork. Strategy. A soldier doesn't celebrate the blueprint. He builds the trap and waits. But I'll tell you this. I saw something in my lawyer's eyes I hadn't seen before. Fear. Not of me, but for her. Because he knew exactly what we were holding. And the courts? They don't like cheaters, especially not smug ones who commit financial adultery on top of everything else. Lisa didn't just cheat on me with a gym rat. She funneled our money into their little fantasy life, spa weekends, rooftop dinners, even a damn couple's massage in Aspen. I had credit card statements. Itemized. Time-stamped. She wasn't just disloyal. She was audacious. She never imagined I'd trace every dime. But here's where things got real. That afternoon, she served me first, a pathetic attempt at a power play. Her process server showed up while I was mowing the lawn. The guy looked awkward as hell, said, "Sorry, man," under his breath as he handed me the envelope. Inside, her terms. She wanted the house. Full custody of our son. Alimony. Retroactive compensation for emotional damages she claimed I'd inflicted over the years through military absence and psychological neglect. I read that last part twice. Psychological neglect. Apparently, going to war makes you an unfit husband. I called my lawyer that evening. He read her list, laughed once, just once, and said, "Let her keep digging." But the most disgusting part wasn't the demands. It was the letter she enclosed. Handwritten. Loopy cursive. Like a high school breakup note from the prom queen who thinks the quarterback will forgive her after she keys his car. "Brandon, you always knew I needed more than what you gave. You think I'm cruel, but I'm just being honest. Alex sees me. I didn't ask for this. I deserved it. And now I'm going to take what I've earned. You owe me that much. L." I stared at that last line for what felt like an hour. You owe me that much. Owe her. As if 15 years of loyalty and sacrifice, of missed holidays and silent nights, of watching my son grow up in photos while I wore body armor in a desert, wasn't enough. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the tiles she picked out, the fridge covered in old magnets from places I'd deployed, the little ceramic mug she used to drink her morning green tea, the one I bought her from Okinawa, and I felt something inside me calcify. Whatever love I had left for her turned to stone. That was the night I made my decision. We weren't just going to court. We were going to war. And when it was over, Lisa wouldn't just lose. She'd be exposed. I hired a private investigator the next morning. Not because I needed more evidence. I already had enough to nuke her narrative from orbit. But I wanted insurance. I wanted to know everything. If Lisa had the gall to write that I owed her, I wanted to see the full invoice. What else was she hiding? Who else had she dragged into her delusion? The guy I hired, Frank, is a veteran, too. Quiet type. Dead eyes. The kind of man who never asks twice, just gets it done. He reviewed the folder I gave him and nodded once. "This isn't a divorce," he said, sliding the pages back into the envelope. "It's an extraction. And she's your hostage taker." It hit me like a round to the ribs. Extraction. That's what this was. My pension, my son, my home, my dignity, she had them all wrapped in her grip, squeezing tighter every day while smiling through her teeth. Frank disappeared into her world like smoke. 3 days later, he resurfaced. "She's not just cheating," he told me over the phone. "She's networking." What does that mean? She's building a story. Friends, coworkers, her yoga teacher, the school guidance counselor, they all think you're some kind of emotionally abusive, PTSD ticking time bomb ex-soldier who never hugged his kid and keeps a loaded pistol on the dinner table. I closed my eyes. Tight. My fists did the same. She's laying the foundation for full custody, Frank continued. She's smart, I'll give her that. But she's sloppy. How so? She's still seeing the boyfriend. Publicly. He picks her up from your house. They kiss outside her work. She's not hiding him. You get what that means, Brandon? It took me a second. She doesn't think I'll fight. Exactly. She was painting herself as the wounded bird while dragging her claws through everything I'd built. All while she clung to a man who, frankly, looked like he'd cry during basic training. Alex. The same clown who used to hand her protein shakes and flirt with her in front of the other gym wives. She was burning down a home to shack up with a discount Casanova who wore tank tops in winter. But now I had photos. Frank delivered them in a discreet folder, time-stamped, location-tagged, crystal clear. Lisa wrapped around Alex in the parking lot of the school right after she picked up our son. Lisa, making out with him in the corner booth of a steakhouse she once told me was too expensive for our anniversary. Lisa, drunk off her ass, being half-carried into his apartment at 3 a.m. The file kept growing. So did my resolve. I started recording every call. I started documenting every exchange about our son. I made a spreadsheet. Time, date, topic, her tone, her threats, her slips. She was careless now, cocky, like she already had the verdict in her back pocket. She didn't realize I was taking notes while she bragged on speakerphone that no judge is gonna side with a guy who's always gone. She didn't realize the mediator she tried to charm had already seen the entire folder and that his jaw literally dropped at the contents. But the moment I knew the tide had officially turned, it came on a Thursday. My son, Ben, came home from her place unusually quiet. He's 10. Tough little dude. But something was off. He wouldn't look at me. Wouldn't touch the plate of food I made. Just sat there on the couch hugging his tablet. Everything okay, buddy? He didn't speak. Just opened his screen and pressed play. It was a video. Lisa's voice. Off-screen. Sharp. I see. You can go live with your dad if you want. But don't come crying back when he forgets to show up. Again. You think he cares? He'll ship off somewhere and leave you just like he always does. He's not a father. He's a uniform. I sat down next to him, heart pounding in my ears. She says stuff like that a lot, Ben whispered. I thought maybe you should know. I didn't cry. I burned. This wasn't just divorce. This wasn't just betrayal. This was character assassination. And Lisa had no idea I was building a case that would make hers implode in front of a judge. Because I wasn't fighting for money anymore. I was fighting for my son. I filed for emergency custody the very next morning. My lawyer didn't blink. He just nodded, already prepping the documents. Because the video Ben showed me was what they call in courtrooms a pattern of parental alienation. It's one of those legal landmines you don't want to step on as a parent. Especially when you've already been caught cheating, lying, and parading your new side piece around town like a goddamn carnival act. We had the footage. We had the audio. We had context. And once that hit the judge's desk, things started moving fast. Lisa didn't even know it was coming. That's the part that almost made me smile. Almost. Because beneath all the legal maneuvers and courtroom games, there was still a 10-year-old boy in the middle of this mess. And every time I saw him flinch when my phone rang, or look up when a car door slammed, I was reminded why I couldn't let this turn into a bloodbath. I had to win, but I had to do it right. Still, I won't lie. There was a certain vindication in watching Lisa's mask crack. The emergency hearing was set for a Monday morning. She showed up in her usual act. High heels, sleek dress, hair blown out like she was heading to a wine tasting, not family court. She tried to saunter in with Alex trailing behind her like a lost golden retriever in tight jeans. But her confidence? It started slipping the moment she saw my legal team waiting with a stack of folders. She didn't even look at me. Not once. But I saw her whisper something to Alex, and the dude turned white like he'd just realized he walked into the wrong war. The hearing was short. Brutal. My lawyer opened with the audio. The judge leaned in before the second sentence was even finished. Then came the investigator's photos. Lisa kissing Alex in front of our kid's school. The timestamps. The receipts. The sheer volume of it. Lisa tried to object, of course. claimed the video was taken out of context, that I was using manipulation tactics, and, my personal favorite, that I had planted evidence. The judge cut her off. "I've heard enough, Mrs. Hayes." Just like that. He ordered a temporary custody reversal pending further review. Ben would stay with me for the next 90 days, minimum. Lisa's jaw dropped. She stammered something under her breath. Something like, "You can't be serious." But no one was listening. Not even Alex, who looked like he wanted to vanish into his own overpriced sneakers. Outside the courthouse, she exploded. "You smug piece of garbage. You think this means you've won? You think I'm going to let you keep him?" I didn't flinch. Just looked her in the eye, calm as a bomb before detonation. "You already lost him, Lisa. You just didn't notice." She tried to slap me. Actually tried it. But Alex grabbed her arm and pulled her back, muttering something through gritted teeth. Probably begging her not to make things worse. Too late for that. Because here's the thing about Lisa. She was always playing a game. Always bluffing, pushing, waiting to see how far she could go without consequences. But now, for the first time, someone had drawn a hard line in front of her. And it terrified her. Back at home, Ben was quiet that night. He didn't ask questions, didn't say much. But when I tucked him into bed, he finally whispered, "Do I have to go back?" I knelt down beside him, hand on his shoulder. "Not unless a judge says so. And even then, we'll fight it." He nodded once, then said something that split my heart clean in two. "She doesn't talk to me like you do. She only talks about you." I sat there long after he fell asleep, watching his chest rise and fall, thinking about how a woman could rot from the inside out and still smile at you like she's the victim. Lisa thought she was just breaking up a marriage. What she didn't realize was that she'd declared war on a father, and I hadn't even fired the first real shot yet. 2 weeks after the emergency custody ruling, Lisa made her next move. It was a Friday morning, cloudy, quiet. One of those deceptive calm days where the air feels thick, like it's holding its breath. I had just dropped Ben off at school. He'd finally started smiling again, finally stopped asking if I'd be gone when he got back. The house, for the first time in months, felt like a home. Then my phone lit up. "Lisa Hayes has filed a motion to contest the validity of the prenuptial agreement." The headline hit like a backhand. I sat down at the kitchen table, heart pounding, staring at the digital ambush. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. She wasn't just trying to destroy me emotionally or take Ben. She was now aiming to dismantle the foundation of everything I had legally secured before we ever said, "I do." My lawyer called before I even had time to process. "She's grasping," he said, claiming duress, saying she was coerced, that she didn't fully understand the terms. "It's laughable, Brandon." "Is it?" I asked. "Judges throw out prenups all the time, don't they?" "Not this one," he replied without hesitation. "Yours is iron." She had independent counsel. She had 3 weeks to review it. There are signatures, witnesses. Hell, she initialed every page. But still, there it was. A motion, a direct strike. And what came next was disgusting. She went to the local press. I didn't find out until my buddy from base texted me a link. Local hero husband accused of financial manipulation by wife seeking fair divorce. There it was, front and center. A flattering old photo of Lisa, smiling like she just solved world hunger, and a headline soaked in vague, weaponized buzzwords: coercion, financial intimidation, emotional abandonment. I read the whole article in silence. She played the victim like a virtuoso, claimed she wasn't given proper legal guidance, that she was pressured into signing something she didn't fully understand, and that she felt unsafe challenging a man with military training and anger issues. That last line, that was the bullet. I nearly crushed my phone in my fist. Anger issues? Unsafe? She was setting up a narrative, turning years of silent strength, of stoic endurance, into a threat. She was making me out to be a walking time bomb who had her trapped. And the comments below? Dozens of strangers who didn't know a damn thing about me, all chiming in with hashtags and judgments. But it wasn't just online. That weekend, 2 of the dads at Ben's baseball game avoided me completely. One of them, a guy I'd shared beers with on the sidelines, suddenly pulled his kid away when I showed up with snacks. That's when I realized It wasn't just a smear campaign. It was a siege. Lisa was trying to poison the well, to isolate me socially, ruin my reputation, wear me down by making the whole damn town look at me like a ticking headline. But she overplayed her hand, because buried in the article, down in the fine print, was the part where she gave too much. She referenced dates, meetings, conversations, pressures that supposedly happened after the prenup was already signed and filed. That was the crack. My lawyer lit up when he saw it. She just testified against herself, publicly. We can subpoena the author, the drafts, the emails. She's cooked. So I waited. Quiet. Patient. Meanwhile, Ben started drawing again. One night, he came up to me with a picture. Just a stick figure version of him and me, standing in front of our house. But at the bottom, in all caps, he wrote, "I feel safe here." I taped it to the fridge like a medal. Because while Lisa was busy crafting her fairy tale of victimhood for anyone with a keyboard, she forgot the one person whose voice mattered most. The kid who lived in the middle of her lies. The one who was finally starting to feel whole again. And me? I wasn't just building a defense anymore. I was preparing the strike that would shatter her mask completely. I didn't strike back right away. That would have been too easy and too visible. No, what I did instead was something she never expected. I invited her to lunch. Yes, lunch. Public. Neutral ground. A cafe downtown where they serve everything with polished silverware and fake smiles. I wore a clean button-down, no uniform, no edge. Just the man she thought she destroyed. The one she assumed was crumbling under the weight of her circus. Lisa walked in 10 minutes late, of course. Wearing her courtroom cocktail attire special tight dress, shades still on, lips painted red like a warning sign. She didn't even say hello. Just dropped her purse in the chair and leaned back like she was waiting to be impressed. "What is this, Brandon?" she asked flatly. I smiled. I thought it'd be nice to have a civilized conversation before discovery hits. That made her blink. Discovery. Yeah, you know. That little legal process where everything comes out. Every bank transfer. Every private message. Every hotel receipt. Every, how did you phrase it, emotional support rendezvous with your shirtless boyfriend. Her jaw didn't move, but her eyes narrowed. I kept my voice calm. Measured. Cold. See, I know you think the public believes you. The article. The interviews. That sob story about a poor trapped wife. But that's the thing about lies, Lisa. They unravel. Especially when you tell too many. She laughed. One of those brittle, wine-tasting chuckles that says I'm still in control. You think you can scare me into backing down? Is that what this is? Some kind of military intimidation tactic. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, and dropped the bomb. I've subpoenaed your emails. The private folder with the vacation booking under L. Hayes, +1. The notes from your friend Michelle where you literally typed, "He'll never see this coming. He's too loyal to Snoop." And that little PayPal you forgot to delete? The one labeled Alex's rent? Hush money? Yeah, that too. Her face flushed crimson. Also, I continued, your dear boyfriend Alex? Not exactly thrilled about being named in an ongoing custody battle. His job's not going to like that. Neither will his ex-girlfriend, you know, the one who still legally owns half his condo. That was the moment. The crack. Lisa's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. For once, no script. No performance. Just silence, and that terrified flicker of truth in her eyes. She didn't know what I knew anymore. I stood up, buttoned my coat, and dropped a napkin on the table. Next time you want to talk about fairness, do it under oath. Then I walked out. I didn't turn around to see her reaction. I didn't need to. I could feel it, that slow, venomous spiral of a manipulator losing control. The next morning, she filed to delay the hearing. Her lawyer cited emotional distress. Said Lisa was struggling to maintain composure due to ongoing intimidation and weaponized litigation. The judge denied the delay. Said there was compelling evidence of deception by the plaintiff that warrants prompt resolution. Translation. She overplayed her hand again. And the hits kept coming. That week, her yoga studio dropped her membership pending internal review. She stopped posting on social media. And one by one, the same neighbors who used to wave at her with cheerful ignorance now kept their doors closed and their smiles tighter. But the most satisfying moment? Ben's teacher called. Said he gave a presentation on what makes someone strong. He stood in front of the class with a picture of me and said, "My dad's strong because he stayed nice even when people were really mean to him." That was the win. That was the prize. Because no matter how many stories Lisa spun or how many spotlights she tried to stand under, there was one stage she couldn't fake it on. The one in her own kid's heart. And now? Now the real trial was coming. The one where masks fall off and truth comes with teeth. The courthouse was colder than usual that day. Not the air, the people. I walked in with my lawyer on one side and the full evidence file in his briefcase. Lisa was already seated when I entered, flanked by her attorney, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. She didn't look at me, didn't even try to fake a smirk. The sparkle was gone. The facade cracked. We weren't here to finalize custody yet. This was the motion hearing, her desperate attempt to dismantle the prenup. She was betting everything on the idea that she could paint herself as the victim, as some naive young woman bullied into signing a document she didn't understand. Her lawyer even tried to dress her down for the optics. Sensible cardigan, no makeup, hair pulled back into a humble ponytail. It was laughable. It was also too late. Because what she didn't know was that in preparation for today, I had done something she would never expect. I'd brought in the judge. Not the one presiding, the original judge. The man who signed our prenup 15 years ago, who had since retired but remembered our case vividly. He didn't testify. He didn't need to. But I'd gotten a notarized affidavit from him the week prior, detailing the consultation, the fairness of the terms, the fact that Lisa had been given separate legal counsel and voluntarily signed every page in a room full of witnesses. Her attorney's face turned gray the moment that affidavit was introduced. But then came the real choke point. Page 12. My lawyer read it aloud in full, deliberately, like a final drum roll before impact. The undersigned waives any and all present or future claims to military pension benefits accrued by the other party prior to the date of dissolution. This waiver is permanent, irrevocable, and not subject to judicial review or reconsideration under any circumstances, including claims of duress, misunderstanding, or future financial change. Silence. The judge leaned forward, fingers laced. "Mrs. Hayes, did you sign this document?" Lisa shifted in her seat. Her lawyer whispered to her. She cleared her throat. "Yes, but did you have independent legal representation when signing?" Another beat. "Yes. Was there any force, threat, or coercion involved in your decision to sign this document?" "No." The judge nodded once. "Motion to challenge the prenuptial agreement is denied. The document is upheld in full." Bang. Gavel. Over. Just like that. She blinked. Once. Twice. Her mouth twitched like she was going to say something, but nothing came out. For a moment, it looked like she couldn't breathe. Her lawyer stared straight ahead, like he was trying to teleport through the wall. And me? I sat still. Because I wasn't done. After court, as we stepped outside, the wind hit hard. I turned my collar up. Lisa caught up to me in the parking lot, alone. "You think this is over?" she said, voice thin. "You think I'm going to just let you win?" I turned to her, slowly, calmly. "You already lost, Lisa. You just haven't admitted it to yourself." She stepped closer. "I'll find a way. I always find a way." "No," I said. "You used to. But you underestimated the one man who knew how to take a hit and keep walking. You underestimated the man you married. And then, I did the one thing she never expected." I smiled. Because I knew what was coming next. And she wasn't ready for it. The custody hearing was on the horizon. And in that courtroom, every lie she'd ever told, every manipulation, every smear, every whisper in our son's ear, was about to go on record. Forever. The week before the final custody hearing, Lisa broke into my house. Not literally, she still had the garage code, and I hadn't changed it. I guess some part of me believed she wouldn't go that far. I was wrong. I walked in from picking Ben up at his friend's house and found her in the kitchen, barefoot, pouring herself wine from my bottle like she still lived here. Ben froze in the doorway behind me. She didn't even look startled. Just turned, smiled, and said, "Don't worry, I'm not staying." Ben didn't say a word. He walked right past her and went upstairs. Didn't look at her. Didn't hug her. Just vanished. She set the glass down and leaned against the counter. You've turned him against me, she said. I shook my head. You did that all by yourself? Her smile faltered. You think you've won, don't you? No, Lisa. I know I've won. But I haven't even started taking back what you tried to steal. She pushed off the counter, pacing. You always play the victim. Mr. Discipline. Mr. Honor. But you're not so clean, Brandon. You're just better at hiding it. Then bring it to court, I said flatly. Let's see who's hiding what. She opened her mouth, but something changed in her eyes. I saw it, panic. Not rage, not pride, just naked panic. The game was slipping. The mask no longer worked. Ben didn't love her unconditionally anymore. Her lawyer had stopped returning calls promptly. The neighbors no longer smiled. And the prenup? Sealed tighter than a steel drum. That night, I changed the locks. Sent her a formal notice through my lawyer. No more unsupervised contact. No more drop-ins. All communication through counsel. The next morning, she retaliated. Filed a motion claiming parental alienation. Accused me of undermining her relationship with her child through psychological manipulation. Said I was intentionally driving a wedge and that I had turned Ben into a weapon. We had to respond immediately. And we did. Because we've been building our case for months. I had records, journals, audio clips, videos, the truth. And Ben? Ben had already spoken to the custody evaluator. A calm, brilliant woman who spent 3 separate sessions with him. She told me in confidence, off the record, that his emotional maturity was unusual for his age, that he spoke clearly, that he had no fear of me, that he expressed reluctance to return to his mother's residence due to repeated verbal aggression and emotional manipulation. In other words, Lisa had already lost him, too. But she wasn't done swinging. She subpoenaed Frank, my PI, claimed he was unlawfully surveilling her without cause. She tried to flip the narrative again, paint me as paranoid, controlling, abusive. But the problem with lying under pressure is simple. You eventually contradict yourself. Because Frank had already filed his report through my legal team, under full compliance. We didn't tell her, we documented what she made public. She flaunted her affair. She invited the world into her lies. Frank just took notes. Then came the night she called me. Private number. I picked up on instinct. Her voice was calm. Empty. You really hate me that much? I didn't answer right away. No, I said. I don't hate you. I just finally see you for what you are. She didn't argue. She just breathed into the phone. Then she said something I'll never forget. He was never supposed to choose you. Click. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about love, or money, or custody. This was about control. Lisa had never believed she could lose. Not the house, not the pension, not the kid. She thought she was the son, unchallenged, irreplaceable, worshipped. But now, her orbit was crumbling. And the courtroom lights were about to hit her like a spotlight on a liar with no lines left to say. Because in 7 days, we'd walk into that custody hearing. And when we did, the whole charade would finally come crashing down. The day of the custody hearing, it rained hard, like the sky had finally decided to unload every ounce of pressure it had been holding since this all began. Thunder cracked across the city as I pulled into the courthouse parking lot, windshield wipers working overtime, Ben's little drawing still tucked into my sun visor. Me and Dad. Safe. I stepped out of the truck and pulled my coat tight. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. Lisa showed up 20 minutes late. Hair soaked. No umbrella. Her mascara already bleeding like it wanted to escape her face. Alex wasn't with her. Neither was her lawyer, not at first. She stood under the overhang out front, arms crossed, trembling not from the cold, but from the unraveling. I didn't offer to help. Inside, the courtroom was stiff and silent. The judge, same one from the prenup hearing, looked like he'd seen it all, and probably had. He greeted both sides with the same deadpan professionalism, but I saw the corner of his eye twitch when Lisa's attorney started his opening argument. She was a loving mother, he said, concerned for her son's well-being. Claimed she had serious fears that I was instilling a militant worldview in Ben, that I was rigid, authoritarian, emotionally absent. I expected all that. What I didn't expect was her testimony. She got on the stand and looked the judge dead in the face, voice soft, hands folded, and told the courtroom that I had screamed at our son in the middle of the night, made him do push-ups as punishment, and once left him crying outside in the cold to build toughness. I sat still, didn't blink. My lawyer didn't even object. We let her keep going, because we had what she didn't. Truth. The evaluator took the stand next. A clinical psychologist with 20 years of experience and no tolerance for performance. She opened her folder and read directly from her notes. Ben Hayes shows no signs of trauma, no signs of fear. He demonstrates strong emotional attachment to his father. He expresses anxiety regarding time spent at his mother's residence, describing shouting, guilt games, and what he refers to as mom's sad face trap. The courtroom shifted. I saw it. I felt it. The atmosphere turned. Lisa's lawyer scribbled something with a shaking hand. Then came my evidence. Every email, every voice memo, every printed text, including one where she told Alex, "If I can get Brandon to snap, I'll have full custody by winter." And then came Ben's drawings, his school reports, the video of Lisa telling him, "Your dad doesn't want you. He just wants to win." The judge didn't speak for a long time. He stared at Lisa like he was studying a species he hadn't encountered before. Then, in a low voice, he said, "I see no reason to consider joint custody at this time." Lisa's mouth dropped open. The silence was visceral. "I hereby award sole legal and physical custody to the father, Brandon Hayes. Supervised visitation for the mother may be revisited after 6 months, pending therapy and further evaluation." My knees didn't buckle, but something in me collapsed quietly, a knot untied. A war ceased. Lisa stood up suddenly, shouting, "You can't do this. You don't know him like I do. He's a manipulator." The bailiff moved. Her lawyer pulled at her arm. She swatted him away. "He brainwashed our kid. He made me the villain." The judge's gavel came down. Hard. "Mrs. Hayes, this hearing is concluded. Any further outbursts will result in a contempt charge." And just like that, it was done. I turned. Ben was sitting quietly outside in the hall, headphones on, watching cartoons. When he saw me, he stood up and smiled. "Can we go home now?" I nodded, trying to keep my face steady. "Yeah, bud. We're going home." As we walked out, Lisa sat slumped on a bench in the hallway, head in her hands, mascara streaked like ink in the rain. She didn't look up. She didn't say a word. And for once, I didn't need her to, because justice had already spoken. And there was still one more truth I hadn't told her. One final move. Waiting for tomorrow. I waited until the next morning to send the final message. Not a text. Not a call. A single email, timestamped at 9 a.m. sharp. I kept it short, 5 lines, no signature. "Lisa. Per court ruling, all communication will now go through counsel. For your reference, attached is a copy of the judge's decision, along with the transcript of your testimony. I've also attached a photo I thought you'd appreciate." That last line? That was the kill shot. Because the photo wasn't just any photo. It was me, standing in a courthouse hallway, holding Ben's hand, with the judge who signed our prenup standing beside us, smiling. 3 men. 3 generations. 1 truth. Ben had taken the photo himself. I told him to press the button when I said, "Freedom." Lisa never replied. But I know she saw it. Because that same evening, her lawyer sent a formal withdrawal from her case. No explanation. Just done. The silence that followed was the loudest relief I've ever felt. Like the war drums had finally stopped. No more emergency hearings. No more subpoenas. No more twisting my son's words or weaponizing bedtime routines. Just quiet. Clean. Unshakable quiet. Ben settled in like the chaos had never touched him. He started sleeping through the night. Started laughing again. Real, uncontaminated laughter. He asked if we could put his "Safe with Dad" drawing in a frame. I hung it above his bed. Then came the day he asked the question I'd been dreading. "Do I have to see Mom again?" I didn't lie. "Not for a while," I said. "And when you do, I'll be right there." He nodded. "Okay. I just don't like the way she talks to you." I swallowed hard. "That's not your fault, Ben. That's on her. You're a kid. You just get to be a kid now." And finally, he believed it. As for Lisa, she vanished. No posts. No drama. Not even a whisper. Word around town was she tried moving in with Alex full-time, but that ended fast. Turns out even a sleazy gym trainer has limits, and getting dragged into a custody trial wasn't his idea of romance. Her world collapsed quietly, just the way she feared most, without attention. She wasn't arrested. She wasn't ruined. She was just irrelevant. No more stage. No more script. No more audience. And me? I didn't celebrate. I didn't throw a party or pop champagne or update my status. I just woke up the next morning and breathed free air for the first time in years. The kind you don't realize you've been missing until the poison is gone. To anyone who's ever been blindsided, betrayed, dragged through the mud by someone who once promised forever, here's what I'll say. Document everything. Stay calm. Don't fight dirty, fight smart. And never, ever underestimate what you can survive when you're fighting for something real. Because when the storm finally breaks and the silence rolls in, there's no better sound than the truth winning quietly.